Hi everyone and welcome to Tuesday Chats. Today I have a very special guest who is making waves in Antigua, 268 Good Humans owner, Joshuanette Francis.
Tuesday Chats with Nadia Dyson.
Welcome.
Oh, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. I can't wait to talk about everything you do. So for the viewers, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'm Joshuanette Francis. I am 30. I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis at 24. It's predicted by 40 I'm not going to be able to walk. Due to legal battles, I learned that a disability tribunal is not up and running, and we formalized Good Humans 268. So everything that we do is designed to give individuals with disabilities jobs. And I want to ensure that I put things in place for myself also, because if I'm ever at the place where I cannot walk, I want to ensure that accessibility is a thing. And I want to create memories with my son so that if I look back, it's like, when I was able to walk, I did that and I did that and I did that. And I was able to change the lives for not just myself, but the 16,000 people based on the census 10 years ago who have some form of a disability.
Oh my God. I'm like literally welling up. Wow.
Yeah. 40. It's like, so I've spoken to like 9 doctors and every diagnosis is the same. Like the cartilage in my knees are failing me. And so I was sad about it before. It's just like, I remember talking to someone, I'm like, I don't want to spend my days, which is weird. I don't want to spend my days finding a cure. I don't want to spend my days wallowing about something because the reality is medicine is upgrading.
Absolutely.
There's also the option of knee replacement surgery. So it's not like doom and gloom, but the reality is we don't come from a society where we can afford certain things. So for me, I want to go to all 365 beaches. I want to hike every hiking trail in Antigua and Barbuda. I want to do all that I can now that my knees are good.
Yeah.
And in the event, because we are also talking about doctors, they're not God.
Exactly.
In the event that it doesn't work out, I can look back and I'm going to have videos and pictures to say I did it.
Oh my God. You are an inspiration. So tell me a little bit more about Good Humans.
So all that we do is designed to give individuals with disabilities what we call golden opportunities. So it's not a situation that nothing is done for individuals with disabilities, but enough is not done.
Yeah.
So we have to create the doors. We have to build a bridge. I say to somebody, we have to become pilots and we have to become captains. We're going to do everything. There's a child in Potter's Primary and every day I'm tired, I'm frustrated. I go to sleep and I remember it's bigger than me. Her name is Diana. So she started the school at kindergarten. She has an issue with her legs, so she can't walk. She started in kindergarten and she's now in grade 5. And for 5 years of her life, every time she needed to use the restroom, she had to ask for help. So at one point, her mom actually went to the school at different intervals to get her to the bathroom, and teachers and students. And I remember a conversation with the principal saying, she had to tell her little friends, I know you guys mean well, but don't assist her. It needs to be an adult. And after lots of lobbying, there's now an accessible bathroom. But it doesn't end at an accessible bathroom. She actually cannot get to the grade 6 classroom now because where the classroom is, we need to build a ramp to the classroom. So I'm in conversation with Public Works and the port to see if we can get a ramp there for September. And then after the ramp, there is what happens when she gets to secondary school. Can she have kids? Can she have a job?
Oh, wow.
Her life at this point, we're talking about 5 years that every time she needed to pee, she needed to ask somebody for help. We have to put things in place for her. And Good Humans 268 is that thing. It's us getting awareness and us eventually generating enough revenue that even if she can't get a job outside, we should be able to provide her with a job. And then we should be able to get her insurance. And then she's supposed to get a car. And while life might not be perfect, it should be somewhat normal. And she is my little inspiration when I get tired.
Oh.
No, because it's a lot, but
It's a lot.
we're doing it.
One step at a time.
we have an accessible bathroom. There was
Yes.
none. And so when I went to Potter's Primary, right, I called Mr. Ponters, like, I see the walls going up and and there is a fulfilling feeling when after fighting and talking about something for a long time, seeing it done.
Yeah.
And that's the disability part of it. And we're very focused on the environment. And that is because I grew up. I'm sorry.
No.
My dad has always been a waterlogger. So we've always hiked and we've always gone to bush, and we grew up riding donkeys. So I always love hiking. Like, shout out to 5 a.m. hikers. I love a good hike. So like, now that we did an organization, it was mixing the two together, because the reality is hurricane season is upon us.
Yeah.
And if a hurricane hits, the people who are most affected are the disability community.
Yeah.
Anything happens with regards to climate change, the disability community is affected. So we have to begin putting things in place, not just to create jobs, but to create awareness and really and truly change the way we look at the environment. I would say to anybody, if you hike, or even if you see a drone foot, it's beautiful. But we leave our trash everywhere. We're just grading down. So we have to begin, talking about it. So even when development comes, development is great, but it has to come we're going to develop, however, we're taking the environment into consideration.
No, absolutely. What inspired you to become an environmentalist? And when was that, aha, trigger point moment?
My fourth formers. So I've been a teacher for 9 years. And I recognize that students in my class, we're always going to have these little talks. And I love St. Mary's Secondary because we used to go on these little hikes or something at the end of each term. But I recognize that students were leaving from school and they were not leaving conscious of the environment. So I designed what we would call our student community service program. So ideally, we want to get students volunteering, recycling, and reforestation from kindergarten 5 to 5th form 16. So what would happen every year, we're going to have a different challenge, we're going to have a different activity, and we're going to go back and back and back. So when they leave from secondary school, they should be conscious of the environment. A lot of children now, when you ask them to do something, they're like, how much are you paying me? Okay, so volunteering, so I think it's dying. Somebody said to me, Joshua, it's already dead, because people are not willing to give as much anymore. And there are lots of reasons why. The economy, people don't understand the fulfilling feeling. And I feel like social media also teaches us to be very selfish.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we teach empathy, and you can only teach empathy when you're volunteering at different things. So the program is designed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every year we should produce a report. Students should plant 2 trees. They should volunteer at 3 different locations. They should volunteer for 40 hours. And the idea is that they should recycle 50 items. So it's just 5 things that you should do throughout the year. I have a vision where it's going to be incorporated into the actual curriculum. So you're not going to leave from secondary school unless you've planted the amount of trees you needed to plant. You would have volunteered at all of the different locations, because there's lots of organizations, there are lots of things that's happening, but it needs to be structured. It's not a Joshuanette idea. In the States, that's what happened. You don't graduate. You have to meet a particular amount of hours. So we need to adapt that part. Because what's happening, a lot of students are leaving secondary school and they have no idea what's happening around the island. However, if every year they volunteer at different organizations, when they leave from secondary school, they should know, okay, I'm going to become a member of this organization. I like the work that organization is doing. And holistically, we're also going to be able to gather a lot of data and make more informed decisions. As in, we recognize a lot of students are into like EAG, they're into redunda and snakes and stuff. Maybe a student is into that. Maybe a student is into what IHO is into. IHO is trying to build a woman shelter and they're talking about battery and these things. So there's a lot of things happening, but it just all needs to be compressed in a more, because I will say to anybody, it's very overwhelming. Because I am outside and I know a lot is happening. So I can only imagine a teacher or a student. So we need it all on an app where you can go through and students are able to volunteer. And can you imagine? I want it up when Jabez goes to school. at kindergarten, we're able to capture pictures and stuff that he did. And then when he gets to fifth form, on the same app, I am able as a mother to go back and look like, you planted that tree so and so and so. And then I'm able to see how many hours he volunteered, and they're going to be games and they're going to be videos. So again, all of this is going to take manpower. So we're going to be able to give people jobs while caring for the environment. Sandals Foundation and the Green Environment Fund.
Okay.
They gave us collectively $98,000 US 2023.
Okay.
So we bought about 90 recycling bins. We did signage. We went to all of the schools. So we got that initial investment into the recycling component of the program. So for the last 2 years, we've been heavily focused on recycling because that's what we got money for.
Right.
So we were able to start the program. And I'm telling you, I thought it was a little thing we're doing. I just want my students to recycle 50 items. It's nothing big. And then we recognize that there's a gap in the system. Households, businesses, events. It's way bigger than students. So we actually designed a blueprint, and the idea is that every household, every business, every event, not a Joshuanette idea again, lots of research. Let's adapt the model from Barbados. Let's adapt the model from Detroit. Let's talk about St. Lucia and all the different places that are doing waste management. Let's bring it here. So every can, bottle, and glass that we use is not going to end up in a landfill. And then we're going to add on the composting component. So landfill fires are started because we put everything, it's like a soup. You throw everything in the pot, and soups are not lovely. But in the landfill, it doesn't come out lovely. It normally combusts over time. So if we want to solve the problem of the landfill, we can't solve it at the landfill. We have to solve it at households. We have to solve it at events. We have to solve it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's going to take... Sitting here, it's going to take about 10 years before we get it perfect. And even in 10 years, it's probably not going to be perfect.
Well, you've got to start. And obviously in all those countries that you mentioned, I mean, in the UK, we recycle everything. It's just a thing. It's a normal thing. It's interesting because when we have guests coming, they're like, where's your recycling bin? Like, we don't do that here. So it's really refreshing to see that you guys are doing that. So tell me more about the recycling. So if I want... we have about 40 villas with, tenants coming in and out for holidays. How does the bin work?
So we would give you a bin. You sign up a form. And I would say the form is a bit long because it's not just, I want to sign up. There's a lot of data that we're gathering.
Okay.
Because the idea is to eventually get to the place where we can make a presentation at Cabinet and we can say, based on the population, we have 500 homes voluntary signed up, and then they sign up based on this. It's about us gathering the data so we can eventually get legislation to change.
Right.
So once you're interested, I get you 40 bins if needed, and we collect on a weekly basis. So what we do, we have 81 schools and we have a schedule. So every school, we zone them into 14 zones, and then we collect based on location. So it's easy for our driver. So like zone 1, the driver starts from 5 Island Primary. So we do 5 Islands, Green Bay, Temple Academy, Golden Grove, Bendals Primary. So the driver just drives
around. Okay.
Same thing with All Saints. So we do Cops Cross and then Liberta Primary, New Bethel, All Saints Secondary, JT Ambrose. So everything is strategic because it's about saving fuel, saving the environment. Logic. So the 14 zones, and we also have schools zoned also because in the future, when we get to the volunteering aspect, we're not going to take a school from Freetown to volunteer for an item in Jolly Harbor. Logistically, it just doesn't make sense. So we need to take the schools that are here to volunteer here. So it's not that we're not gonna give them the exposure, but it's just easier for me to get the school bus to transport students from here.
Yeah.
And then that also means that next year, if we get them to do this, we can then get another zone. So holistically, students should eventually be able to explore the whole island in a more controlled, data-driven format.
What happens to the stuff that you're recycling?
So we recycle glass, cans, and plastic. The plastic and the cans go to Antigua and Barbuda Waste Recycling Corporation. And I should have brought your shirt. So the shirts that we used for Sailing Week last year were actually made from plastic.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So they're shipping them away to a company in California, and it comes back on island as fabric. And then there's a brand that called Respect right here in Antigua that's using that same plastic to make shirts. Last year, we didn't use the shirts this year, but last year Sailing Week, the shirts that we used were from that brand Respect.
Wow, so that's the plastic and the...
Just the plastic. The cans go to another factory and they're remade into new cans.
Okay, and the glass.
The glass, we're currently storing it. So I have this vision that I'm going to convince all of the hotel and restaurant owners to come together, and we're all going to donate between $5,000 to $10,000, and we're going to buy the machine that's going to turn the glass into sand. So in the initial phase, we did not think that we needed to recycle glass, so we were not collecting glass. And then I stumbled across a video, Glass Half Full. There's a company in Louisiana. They just broke ground on 3 acres of land for a bigger factory. They're turning all of the glass in Louisiana into sand. They're doing the research now to see if the regular sand and the sand that they made, what happens.
Yeah, how different is it?
So I want to go to Louisiana. I want to actually go for a week to volunteer.
Yeah.
And
see what they're doing, get all the intel, get all the data.
Yeah, we don't need to do it.
Oh, wow. That is, that's fascinating.
Galley Bay is already out doing it here though. Galley Bay has a machine that's turning glass into sand, but it's not one machine. So they're not doing it to the extent of Glass Half Full, but every glass that Galley Bay has doesn't go to the landfill. However, it's unrealistic for us to ask every hotel to buy a machine.
No. I mean,
So if we get every hotel to chip in and we all get a nice building and the machine. So the machine is like $116,000 US. So I spoke to Glass Half Full. I spoke to the manufacturers in New York. So I know the machinery, and it's just like they're willing, once we have the money, they actually come for 4 weeks on island to do training, and then they're gonna help us to set up. So the glass is literally just sitting on the land in John Hughes. Nothing is happening with it.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, it's not in a landfill.
I was saying to somebody, the good news is, so while it sounds crazy, it's better for us to store it knowing that something can happen than just send it to the landfill. Because the reality is, we might find the perfect homeowner who's just like, you know what? Here's the money to buy the machine. We don't know. And for me, I will say to anybody, I'm working off of what I call crazy faith. Like, I believe that this is going to work. And it's just about finding the right people to sign up, finding the right people to get the word out, because there are lots of money that can be invested into the project. And it's bigger than Joshuanette, and it's bigger than Good Humans 268. It's really about Antigua and Barbuda doing something with the landfill.
You have a young son. How do you explain to him what you do and why you do it?
So Jarvis is now 3, and he loves an adventure. So his dad and I, we don't always see eye to eye, because once I can take Jarvis, I'm going to take Jarvis on an adventure. And now, like the other day, randomly, he's like, I want to pee. I pull off the side of the road, and he's a boy, so I get away with murder. And he's like, look at all of this garbage, you have to pick it up. And that's because since he was in my tummy, we've been going on these little adventures. He loves coming to John Hughes. And I said to anybody, my son is going to go to UE. UE is in 5 Islands. The landfill is close to 5 Islands. Just about 2 weeks ago, maybe a bit more, National Solid Waste had to release a statement saying that the air quality was bad and they had to call in the fire trucks. If my son is going to go to UE, I must ensure that the landfill isn't still getting fires in the next 20 years. And I'm saying he's going to go to UE because I'm not like putting a limit on, but I know I grew up poor. And I know that education now is expensive. So I know I'm putting things in place so I know for sure I can afford that university degree. And at the last expo, I said to a professor, when he comes to UE, I'm not going to have to pay for room and board. He's going to come home into my house. And I'm not going to have to pay for food. He's going to be able to come home and eat. And I feel like parents have to put that realistic expectation. And if I want him to have a quality education at UE, the landfill must be fixed, which is weird. So one of my friends once said to me, Joshua, you're passionate about water. This did not, I was not always as passionate about waste as I am now. And that's also because I've done a lot of research, lots of YouTube videos, I've done lots of Zoom calls, because it is important to learn how we change the problem that the landfill has now. And it's going to take years. But if we begin composting and recycling, that means we're going to have less items going to the landfill. Let's talk about the tires. Let's talk about all the old vehicles. There's a lot of things in waste that is so fascinating. Like, there's a young man who made fuel from plastic. The possibilities with waste are literally endless. It's a multi-million-dollar industry that we have not tapped into. And that is because we don't see the value of that can that we're throwing away. We don't see the value of that chicken bone.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't see the value of something that you throw it in the bin and it's gone. And I want to change that. I remember I said to somebody, you know why we have to keep at it? Not bashing Antigua Girls High School, but we started 2 years, and Antigua Girls High School had never been one of the top schools. However, recently the principal had a competition, and all of the students were bringing bottles, and she called me, Joshuanette, you need to come and get the bottles out of my place. She's like, we have over 3,000 bottles, and every time I tell the girls the competition is done, they keep bringing. And
That's
she's like,
really good though, yeah.
3,000 bottles. And then St. John's Lutheran has a competition also, and everybody's bringing bottles. We took 4 truckloads, and our truck holds 33 bags. Each bag holds about 200 bottles, and we took 4 truckloads from St. John's Lutheran. They had a competition, and every morning, so parents are bringing their children with 2 bags, and the principal calls like, y'all have to come and collect these bottles. And then Old Road Primary and St. Nicholas also has a competition. So last year they did it, and this year they did it again. So for sports day, each house had to bring 3 truckloads from St. John's Lutheran. So I was saying to people, you can't just stop.
No, you can't stop.
We
No.
can't stop, because if we stop, that means we're breaking all of those spirits. And very spiritual. When things happen, I said, you know, y'all coming like Job's wife. Job's wife said to him in the Bible, when all of the things were going wrong, curse the Lord and die. That's what she said to him. And Job said, you got to praise God in the good times and the bad times. So when the bad happens, I said, y'all coming like Job's wife. And I'm very transparent. I like to say to anybody, we have, and we're still negotiating with the government, but with negotiations, it's not going as planned. And the government gave us manpower, and we received $60,000 in September. And we were able to pay our staff for September 15th, September 30th, and October 15th. And that was the last time anybody was paid. And we keep going back. And the hardest part, I remember saying to Kalisha for Christmas, you know, we don't have any money to pay you.
Oh gosh.
And she has a daughter, and they were going on vacation. I didn't have any money. And I'm just like, you know, not gonna cry about it.
Oh God. Don't you set me off again. Oh.
And they left with no money for vacation. And she comes back and she's still working. She's still.
Oh my gosh.
And it's exhausting. But I will say to anybody, we just haven't met the right person. And we can't stop. We
You
can't.
can't stop.
And there's me, and we started with a team of 8, and there are 5 of us. None of us have been paid. So what has happened, like for Sailing Week, I negotiated that we could give our staff a stipend, because I said to them, I can't ask them to volunteer. So like for Carnival with Oasis, the idea is even if we're not paid our salaries, we would get something from the different events that we show up at. And the days that I cry, because there's lots of days that I cry about it, I remember, you know, in the last part of Joe's life, there were more blessings than the first part. And I track our salary. So I know, and like this month, I said to everybody, like, we're gonna move the bottles, and the government is gonna give us the money, and everybody's gonna get paid. And there was a time also, so I'm a teacher, so with the government, when I started to teach 9 years ago, actually 10 years ago, come the 13th of this month, there were 3 months that you didn't get paid. Once you start working for the government, there's a 3 month period that you don't get paid. So I've kind of experienced this before. It's just now difficult now because I have a son, but it's like it cannot be that we weren't paid, and it's just like because when we weren't paid, we're just gonna give up. It has to be marketing. It has to be that I'm up. 2 days ago, I sent a proposal to Jumibe Fund. I sent a proposal to Calvinair. I sent one to Old Road Fund. I sent one to Andy Roberts. I sent one to Antigua Barbuda Environmental Fund. It's just about submitting our proposal. What is the idea? And Camilla. Like I spoke to Camilla, and Jolly Harbour now has 9 bins, and we're now in conversation about putting more bins in Jolly Harbour.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote a proposal for us to buy 250 bins. And even again, once we buy the bins, I didn't even put in to pay myself. Once we buy the bins, that means we now have a revenue generating
Yes.
stream.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it cannot be that we're not making money, and it has to be how do we move from not making money to making payroll, and it's about getting enough households on board. If strategically we get all households on board, we can generate $15 million every year. Based on the data, 11 years ago, there's 28,000 homes. If every home is paying $45 like Barbados, that means we can generate $15 million there. Tourists, let's talk about businesses, let's talk about events.
Yeah.
So like St. Lucia, in order for you to have an event in St. Lucia, you have to submit what they call a waste management plan. So you can't just get a skip and throw everything into the skip. You must have waste separation. So if
Yeah.
you smooth that in, that means we're gonna generate revenue. And that means Christmas, we're not gonna have that discussion about our staff not being paid because we're gonna have enough money.
You are.
But what we can't do now is just like, okay, we don't have any money, so we give up. It's
Yeah.
just about keeping with it. And I believe, which I'm telling you, many days, when you're tired, you go to sleep. I have had a few days where I feel really overwhelmed because it's not working out. And ACB is like my favorite parking lot because it's safe. I go to ACB's parking lot, I roll up my windows, and I go to sleep.
Oh, well, you got to recharge your batteries, okay? So it's not a bad thing. And then you can come back fighting. Tell me about your tourism kind of program, because you mentioned a couple of things. I want to hear about your tourism program where people that come to Antigua can get involved and help with cleaning the beaches and recycling. And then the second thing is I hear you're doing some world records.
Yeah.
So tell me about these two things.
So again, I said to my team at one meeting, I'm glad that you guys weren't paid because they weren't paid. So because I was so focused on the government and things were smooth and they gave us the $60,000, we did not look for different revenue streams. When that didn't work out, as a leader, I now had to think, how do we make money? Guinness World Book Records. I actually had a call this morning that we're recording this interview with Guinness World Book Records.
Oh.
So there are over 50 Guinness World Book Records that we can beat surrounding the environment. And the price tag though is $16,000 per record. However, this morning,
I'm sorry, what?
US. Yeah.
Wow. So to enter 60.
I didn't think so. When I thought about it, I thought there was gonna be a price tag. I just didn't expect 60. Nobody expects that. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
That translates to like 50,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So what is the are you thinking
You're
of?
bragging rights that you're on their website, you're in their book. So technically you're more paying for
Marketing and awareness of the country and
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So the price tag, while it sounds big, the exposure that we're gonna get is gonna be way beyond that.
Yeah.
So so we had a call this morning. She's like, they actually renegotiated for nonprofits and or organizations that are into the environment that we can get a discounted rate. So she's gonna send me back a message, and she said to me they can come down from it's not a big come down, but it's a come down from 16,000 to just about 12,000. And I'm just like, that's probably more doable. I feel like I could convince somebody.
Yeah.
So the idea isn't even to convince one company, it's to convince several companies to come together and we do the Guinness World Book Record.
For what? What is the challenge?
So I want to do the longest plastic bottle line chain. I want to do most plastic boats launched, most cans crushed simultaneously,
Whoa,
most cans crushed simultaneously.
crushed simultaneously, as in like with all the kids at school crushing them underfoot at the same time. What's the current record?
So that one doesn't have a record. So there's also records that have not even been broken yet. So I have a document with like 50 of them.
Oh gosh,
So
okay.
over the next 5 years, I'm hoping to convince different people to give me
The money.
because it's not about the money. It's about building what we are going to call a recycling museum. So, you know,
Yeah.
Texas is known for big things. So I want to have these records where we have these massive collections. So like the Red Bull, a volunteer brought it to me. The Red Bull actually has a Red Bull in the ring. Can you imagine if we collected 100,000 of those? We had a dress, so we have carnival costume. So I want to design the museum. So if you're watching this video, go look for World of Coca-Cola. When you go
Okay.
to Atlanta and you go to World of Coca-Cola, it's a big display of Coca-Cola. There are lots of different things to do. I want to do that wrong ways. So what would happen when you come on island? We're gonna have this big facility with all of these different things that we've collected and we've made. Like I want to make, you know, election season, these gigantic billboards. I want to make a big billboard with Antigua flag made from bottle caps.
That's very cool. That's a cool idea. Yeah.
Program is happening next year. So I want all the schools, I want each school, the program is comprehensive government.
Okay.
So I want each school to get a CARICOM country, and we're going to make the flag from buttercups. And we're also going to do the island from buttercups.
That's very cool. Yeah.
So, and then I also want us to do the country on the school fence, and then you're going to paint the bottle. So CARICOM is also big into plastic. So the King's Baton was here like 2 weeks ago, and there's a big Clean Oceans campaign. So I want when Chogam happens, like all of the schools, like at least 1 week in the school year, we're focusing on, well, each school will focus on a particular country. And then what would happen is from that particular country, you're going to do poems, we're going to do. So when it does happen, like the students know what is Chogam, and we have the possibility of, I actually want to leave a space on the flyer for us to get the heads of government to sign.
Yeah.
So like wherever that head of government is, we would have some students go, well, maybe they can't go, but
Yes.
thinking maybe with security, we might be able
Yeah.
to get at least 2 students from the school to go and they sign their name at the bottom. And can you imagine how students are gonna be?
Yeah.
Like,
Feel. Yeah. And how did tourism? What was the tourism
we're gonna
aspect?
keep all of those things and we're gonna create a museum.
Is there a way now that people could get involved? Like people are coming on holiday next week. Like, can they volunteer? Can they help?
So we have a mock-up museum, right, on our temporary location in John Hughes. We did it for the King's Baton. So individuals can come and experience a miniature version of what I'm talking about now. So we have several different things that you can do. You can experience the sorting process. You can make the boats for the different plastic, the records that we want to break. So at this point, you can come to John Hughes and you can experience what we are going to do.
What about like other organized events where you know help clean the beaches or on hikes? Is that something that you?
So yes, so we are going to have at least 4 different beach cleanups. So we're going to have a cleanup for Earth Day, and we're going to have several different cleanups. And once we have it, we also work with Adapt a Coastline and work with all of the other organizations to ensure that Antigua and Barbuda is nice. And this is why I say to anybody now, while I'm tired and frustrated, I want to be paid. The future is brighter and bigger than wanting to be paid now. I believe with everything in me, if we stick to it, it's gonna work out. We are gonna have, just like people come to go to Nelson's backyard, people are gonna come to Antigua to come to Good Humans 268. And I have a vision that we're gonna be on 50 acres of land. I want 35 acres for a farm, 5 acres for a nursery, and 10 acres for a state-of-the-art compound. I want a gym. I want a kitchen. When you come to Antigua, you should be able to come to a place that is for individuals with disabilities. We haven't tapped into disability tourism. That is a whole market that Antigua and Barbuda has not, another multi-million-dollar industry that we haven't tapped into because people don't visit us because we don't offer individuals with disabilities the experience.
Yeah.
And if you follow us on Instagram, so it's Good Humans 268, go to our followers list. And we follow lots of different influencers who are disabled, who are doing great things. Like Chelsea from Roulette, they have a whole production every year about with disability dancers and people coming and doing performances. And I will say to anybody, we have to create the space. So I can't give everybody a job. I know that. That's not the mission, but I can't give everybody a home away from home. I met a mother. Her daughter is 27. She teaches at Five Islands Primary, and her daughter has to go to the nursing home every day because there's no facilities for her daughters. I'm like, can you imagine if you created a space where we have trained professionals? So instead of paying a nursing home, you would pay us to take care of your daughter. And then she's going to feel welcome. And a farm, because farming
Because, yeah, animals, you know, yeah.
That's where the money's at.
Yeah.
I want us to do guava. And then I want
Yeah.
us to do the guava. I want us to do guava cheese, guava wine.
Yeah.
Everything that we produce from our farm, we should be able to do 3 other things with it. So when you come to Antigua, you're supposed to be able to collect lettuce and stuff from our farm and then come to our kitchen and we should be able to make your salad. So when you come to our compound, it's an experience we're selling you. So it's not, we're selling you ways, or it's a holistic experience. And if we're a tourism industry, we must tap into tourism.
Wow, you have such amazing visions, and I'm so honoured to meet you. I think you're doing exceptional work, and tailor-made luxury locations villa management. We will buy. I think I've got about 40 homes. We'll buy your recycling bins, and we'll support you. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, if you want to get involved, which you should, with the recycling and volunteering and any donations, all Joshuanette's details are below with all her sites. So please get in contact. And thanks everyone for watching. If you like our channel and you want to see more videos, please subscribe below. Thank you again. Bye.
Tuesday Chats with Nadia Dyson.